Hey, it's Riddim.
Your Riddim chat.
Reasoning.
As promised, here's some real talk. Our guest to our very first Riddim chat reasoning is none other than Kabaka Pyramid. The award-winning artist from Kingston has always been and continues to be one of the conscious and revolutionary voices out of Jamaica. Welcome, Kabaka Pyramid, to our very first Riddim chat reasoning. We appreciate so much that you take out the time to talk to us on this very important topic of police brutality.
Good times.
Thank you for being here. In Jamaica, some people say that they are as afraid of the police as they are of gangsters. Given the high rate of fatal police shootings, that fear may be justified, but how do you feel about the Jamaican police?
Yeah, the whole police situation in Jamaica, I guess it's different depending where you find yourself in society. I guess it depends on your lifestyle as well. Like I remember when I was young and, young man smoking herb and, driving around in herb when it was still illegal, you definitely, had a fear of the police and thing. But I guess like the main thing, how I always have it in Jamaica, is like if you have a gun on you and you can't identify yourself, then anything can happen if the police stop you. And then basically train to just do whatever they feel like doing in that situation. So it's like, obviously people in society who in that world and in that kind of environment definitely would have that fear of police. But the typical citizen, I mean, there's police corruption. There is like, a police might want a thing from you or something instead of giving you a ticket or something like, things like that will happen. But, there's definitely a high crime rate generally, like especially in the inner city, in the ghetto areas and thing. And it's spread. It's starting to spread more and more into, regular society, like people just getting killed in the middle of halfway tree and in Barbican. People getting robbed in traffic and things like that. Them is things I never used to hear about as a little youth growing up, so yeah, it's definitely an evolving society and the crime is a serious problem.
Yeah, I mean, police brutality is not just a Jamaican problem. Of course, it manifests everywhere. When George Floyd was murdered in Minneapolis in May, that sparked Black Lives Matter protests all around the world. In Jamaica, people protested as well. Since you were there, how did you experience that?
Yeah, it was very interesting. I'm very glad that we gathered to take some action and support our brothers and sisters in the States and affected around the world. There's a lot of interesting things around this thing though. It's like, I know we're living in a time where there are lots of conspiracy theories and everybody is sending videos around and a lot of information is going on. But I really found it interesting that, and as I said, this is just things that I'm seeing on my social media, that a few days or maybe a day after George Floyd was killed in the US, like you see a similar image of a police with his knee in a black man's neck in Madrid, and then in Paris, and then in other places in Europe, like within the same week. Now, it really makes you wonder, like, what is really happening at the core, if this thing is being staged to provoke a reaction, and then people are saying that it's politically aligned, and that the leftists are trying to get, black votes and all of these kind of things. So it's really crazy. And the first post that I actually made about it was questioning the whole George Floyd killing, because it seemed very random to me and very strange how they would just have the knee on this guy's neck for minutes, and then you're seeing some other videos coming out that showing other angles where you don't see anybody with a camera that was at the original angle. So how was somebody filming there and then on this angle nobody was? So it's like, it was so strange. And then you're seeing things like, like the police might have been an actor in an actual TV show and things like that. So it really makes me wonder, like, you know, I cannot declare any facts on these things, but it makes you wonder if because you know, growing up as a Rasta youth, we learn to question everything that we see on TV, because we know that there's a lot of manipulation through the media going on, and there's a lot of programming to the news, through TV shows, through movies, and all of these kind of things. And it's like we really have to be very careful. You know, you're hearing that the Clintons and the Soros are heavily invested in the Black Lives Matter movement, and then there's all kind of controversy surrounding those people. So it's just a very strange situation. You know, I do believe that the action that is being taken by individual people is good, and I encourage it. I encourage protesting. We've seen how protesting and even rioting has shown results over the years. But I don't believe in these things being manipulated, and I think there is some psychological aspect going on with the quote unquote leaders of our society to provoke reaction, so that maybe in the future there can be some martial law going on or something like that because of all this unrest, you know. And then we see in the COVID numbers spiking, and then there, you know, some people are blaming the protests, while some states that were protesting, they don't have the spike. Some states that weren't protesting as much as others have the spikes, you know. So it's just, I think there's like a over, I don't know what's the word. We're just so much information is at us, and we just have to do our best to process it in the right way, take relevant and necessary actions to hold these police and these leaders accountable for these things. You know, we saw that everybody was complaining about the rioting and thing, and then you see that, you know, members of the Ku Klux Klan were dressing up, you know, as regular citizens. These are police Ku Klux members, you know, that were dressing up and instigating riots and things like that. And then now you're seeing the police and the governors and the government of the different districts reacting to those things. And then on the positive side, we see that because of the pressure of the riots, we see that the police were charged, you know, all of them. So, you know, I try to balance up all these things in my mind and try to see the good in it. But I'm definitely careful about, you know, how much I you know, I actively put out, you know, and what I say about these things, because I don't want to feed into anybody's agenda. You know, we see all kind of agendas being tied together with the racism agenda, like kind of equated, like it's one thing and things like that. And I don't really subscribe to that. I think this race situation is unique, you know. Being prejudiced to someone for who they are, the color of their skin, is something that's on a deep level to me, and it should be treated individually. You know what I mean? There's other things to agitate about, and there's other things to fight for, but we can deal with them individually as well. You know, and yeah, just some of my thoughts on the whole thing.
But when you went out to the protest, why did you go there? You know, why?
Well, for me, you have to remember that around the time of George Floyd, there was a killing of a disabled old lady in Augustown in Jamaica. I can't quite remember her name. Susan Bogle, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that happened at the time. There was not a lot of information about it. There wasn't any videos of it. But, you know, the grandson, or it was a son, or the grandson tweeted about it, and information got out. So I definitely wanted to support, you know, agitation about that, as well as standing with our brothers and sisters in America and representing for it. So that's why I went. You know, I'm always somebody that's vocal about injustice, and you know, I'm always there with the people in the community. So I just felt naturally that I had to, you know, make an appearance. And, you know, there was Nyabingi chanting and all of these things where, you know, Rasta is, as I said in my post, you know, Rasta is always there for the people. So, you know, I'm always there to support.
Yes.
And I like that. I like the fact that it was at the U.S. Embassy as well, because there was another protest at Emancipation Park. I didn't go to that one. I went to the U.S. Embassy one specifically to send that message, directly.
Yeah, so important. People worldwide are addressing racism right now. You've already said something towards it, but I feel, like in Jamaica, the population is predominantly black.
Mm-hmm.
So colorism and classism, which you've already addressed a little bit earlier, they seem to be more prevalent in Jamaica. Maybe you can tell us how colorism and classism manifest, within Jamaica.
Yeah. I think that colorism and classism is really just stemming from racism. It's just kind of byproducts, like how it manifests in a majority black society. But it's coming from the same root, because the same people who are of a lighter complexion are still, mixed descendants from colonial slave masters for the most part, or people who, you know, migrated to Jamaica from other countries and things, who were in positions of wealth and power. So it really comes down to um, feeling superior, and things like that's, at the core of racism, feeling superior, whether it's because of the purity of your race, which has a color aspect to it, and the same thing is manifested in Jamaica. So you look at all of the businesses in Jamaica, the top businesses. If you look at the CEOs, the board of directors, you just see majority. You go in the boardroom and it's majority light-skinned people. In a lot of the businesses. To my knowledge, you know, darker skinned people are becoming more prominent. In positions of power. I would say that in the government, it's there's definitely a lot of dark skinned black people in power, but definitely, like, going to a school like I went to, like Campion College, like lighter skinned women, the popular perception was that they were prettier and things like that, and they definitely had a more easy high school experience, in my opinion, just how I observe it and things like that. You check most of the popular girls and most of the popular guys, and you find a lot of them light skin and things like that. So, and Campion is one of those schools where, people on the kind of higher end of society would be attending that school, whether from intellectual, or just, connections and money, connections and things like that. So I got to see them thing the first, and I got to see where a light skinned person could have their hair. If you pull a strand of their hair, it probably extend out to here. And then if I grow my hair and have it extending out in my little afro, then, the dean of discipline is telling me, calling me into her office personally to say that I need to cut my hair, and things like that. And obviously we would have defied, because we are the rebel then, what I mean? So I used to sleep with my do-rag at night time and make sure to send my hair pat down, so that when it's weekend I can cane up my hair. But these are the things where we face and we talk about it. Like, even after I left school, because they didn't accept me into sixth form, which is like a higher education aspect of high school that kind of prepares you for college. When I went to visit my friends on campus after going to the school for 5 years and graduating, because I had locks on my head, they told me that I was banned from the campus, that I wasn't allowed to be on the school compound. What I mean? And anybody seen with me would be punished. What I mean? And that the vice principal literally told me that it's because of, my religious beliefs are not in line with the school. That was 20 years ago. Things have changed slightly since then. So, things are improving gradually. But that's just the state of Jamaica. Those are some of the things I can see, how classism and colorism kind of affect us here.
If we go back to what you said earlier, that there is a lot of crime and violence still. In some parishes in Jamaica, there's been a state of emergency for that reason since a couple of years now. What is your opinion on a state of emergency?
Yeah, I mean, my view on the state of emergency is that it's like, I guess, putting a band-aid over a problem that needs stitches. You know, it's just not dealing with the root of the problem. The root of the problem is a socio-economic problem. You know, you have to address crime and take measures to address crime, but not solving the socio-economic situation in the country. You know, kids growing up without opportunities to enter into the job market, you know, based on a lack of proper education, you know, not feeling themselves worthy of roles in society and things like that. Them are going to revert to scamming and violence and all of these things, you know, and then because of the prevalence of that, because of how easy it is to access guns, which our government is not doing a good enough job. You know, in many cases, is we find out says the government allowing for these criminals to have guns in the first place, providing dons and community leaders with money and things like that. You know, and different artists getting successful and providing youth with guns and all of these things. This kind of danship mentality in Jamaica is very prevalent, and you know, it's an issue, you know. And the state of emergency, that is like you're just trying to contain the problem, but are you getting to the root of it? That is always my issue. You know, we're finding out that in some of the months earlier in this year, there was actually an increase in crime. You know, crime was still spiking even within the state of emergency. Some parishes have been under for over a year now. Some just coming up to about a year, and we're still having crime. So obviously there's a deeper rooted issue at hand. And for me, all of our problems stem from early days of colonial Jamaica, you know, and not getting rid of those issues, not teaching the youths them about themselves, about them heritage, you know, not giving them a firm foundation to believe in themselves. That is at the root of the problems. And then, you know, insufficient education, you know, not paying the teachers enough, all of these kind of issues just, you know, it just provides this negative loop and this spiral that just churns out criminal activity.
Yeah. I think you've always been very good at pinpointing these problems. In your lyrics, you're very, very outspoken, always have been on social injustice, you know, on pointing it out.
Sure.
How do you think that music can bring about change?
Well, I always say that music brought about change in my life, so I know it can do that for others, you know, and I think music affects people on an individual level, and you know, that obviously in effect has a collective, you know, impact. But I just think that music is the medium for awareness. For music is the way how a lot of people get their information, get their news, get their perspective and things, because you have a lot of good songwriters who are able to put things in perspective that make you really think about what's happening in society. And that is what changed my whole view of life and brought me to Rastafari and brought me to my purpose within doing that same thing, you know, through music for others. So I definitely feel it has that impact. You know, a lot of the most influential people in Jamaica are in the music industry, you know, and, you know, a lot of them, in my opinion, not really using them influence for enough good. You know, a lot of them kind of influencing people to just, you know, play along with society and play along with the typical modes of just being hype and being viral and things like that, where, you know, if they were to, you know, even you have to big up man like Bounty Killer for having his foundations and donating to different charities and providing food for people. I see Bugle having him feeding thing. I think it's every Christmas. You know, you see Shaggy doing things for the children's hospital. These are some of the things that artists are able to do with their influence and with their power. Even Chronic Sabbath carrying on the Rastafari Foundation, doing work in Spanish Town. So these are the kind of things, and I think the individual songs have a power within them, to transform the minds of people. So yeah, there's a lot more that can be done, but you know, big up to the ones who are definitely on the right track.
Right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Man.
Yeah, and I want you to
Thanks.
know that you are one of those people that do inspire, and
Thanks.
we're really grateful to have your
Appreciate
music.
that. Yeah, man. Give thanks, man. Give thanks. It's a lot of work to be done. I'm glad to have the platform to do it. And you know, because one thing to have all these thoughts in your head and not have anybody to share them with, you know. So it's good. And you know, big up for even setting up this platform. Big up Ellen and Pete and the whole Riddim team. And I hope it does very well and just expands the voice of, you know, the people.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. Blessings.
Hey, watch it in a Riddim chat.